Hey, Mike here. Want to spend a couple minutes talking about this crazy story from right here in my backyard, Denver, Colorado. And it's about this former prosecutor in the Denver DA's office, a female, who was not just fired, but also very recently disbarred for making false sexual harassment claims against a male coworker and then undertaking this fairly extravagant fabrication and ultimate destruction of evidence to try and prop up her false claims. And then once this was put under some scrutiny, the whole thing just pretty much fell apart on her. And like I said, fired, ultimately disbarred, and then this gentleman spent quite a bit of time before he was cleared of all this wrongdoing with a real serious cloud hanging over his head. And so I just want to, and I have to tell you, the details sound a little bit more like a pitch for a Lifetime movie than a real life event, but I do have it here in black and white. So let's talk about it for a few minutes. The woman in question, I'm not going to do her name justice. I don't think it's Yujin Choi, and I'm assuming she was a fairly young woman. She graduated law school in 2018, went to work for the Denver DA's office in 2019, and when this incident took place in 2022, she was prosecuting felonies in the family violence unit. So it appears she had risen fairly quickly through the ranks, but I'm still assuming she's a woman in somewhere in her 20s. So this is from the summary of the presiding disciplinary judge for the Colorado Supreme Court's opinion ordering her disbarred. In October 2022, Choi intentionally acted to harm a coworker by fabricating text messages designed to make it appear that the coworker was harassing her. She doubled down on that deceit during her employer's investigation into the messages by intentionally altering evidence. To maintain the ruse, she purposefully ruined her own phone and laptop to prevent her employer from forensically examining the devices, spinning a false narrative about their accidental destruction. And then it goes on to describe statute and verse of the reasons for disbarring her. But that does, I got to tell you, like I said, it sounds like I just pitched some producers on a movie for the Lifetime network. So what happened in a nutshell is this woman Choi told a coworker that this male coworker, and by the way, his name is Daniel Hines. He was a criminal investigator in the DA's office. She told a coworker that he had made a comment to her that she considered to be sexual harassment, but she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And this coworker, of course, immediately went to management and made a big deal out of it, launched a thing. And she said she didn't want to name names, but then later on, she was at, and this is where it gets really interesting. She was at happy hour with some coworkers, and she told these coworkers that she had received a text message from this guy, a sexually harassing text message from this guy, and of course, and showed it to him. And the coworkers, of course, said, "You have to do something about this." So this launched the investigation. But I'm going to read from the investigative report what she claimed of this guy. So this is what Choi claims Daniel Hines texted her. Yujin, please stop talking about what I didn't do to our colleagues. You are using your looks against innocent people. If you want to act like a sex doll to get a sugar daddy, fine, but it will not be me. Now, you can almost imagine what her coworker's reaction would have been to that. Remember, we're post Me Too, we're post Believe All Women. My guess is that this guy was essentially made a pariah in that office. So the investigation was launched, and the investigators wanted to see their devices, her devices, his devices, to examine them. And he turned his phone over, and it showed no evidence that he had sent her text messages at the time she claimed she had gotten these. And in the meantime, apparently she had deleted the text message and instead had sent screenshots to the investigators. And then just before it was time for her to turn hers over, she claimed she was drawing a bath and accidentally dropped her phone in the bathtub, rendering it useless for examination. And then she claimed further that she went to go send some emails from her laptop and spilled a glass of water on the laptop, rendering it useless for examination. But she did turn over some printouts of some call logs that later were shown that she had altered to try and make it look like Hines had texted her. Now, for a lawyer, it's kind of surprising that she didn't think that these investigators would be able to get hold of her cell phone records. So they actually subpoenaed Verizon for her cell phone records, and those records showed that she had sent SMS text messages to and from herself at the times in question. Anyway, Hines was cleared and she was fired, and now she's been disbarred. But remember, this was 2022, and now we're into February 2025, and this is just now being resolved. And so the big question is, well, what about this guy, Hines? Just imagine what he went through. So let me read from the disciplinary judge's opinion about this gentleman, Daniel Hines. As for Hines, he testified that respondents, that's Choi, respondents' accusations negatively affected the way his coworkers at the DA's office viewed and interacted with him. Though the investigation exonerated him, the allegations nevertheless left an indelible mark on him reputationally, and I can almost imagine that being the case. It goes on to say he felt, quote, vilified. In addition, Hines testified that the Choi's actions caused him to go, quote, to some pretty dark places. The false rumors made him want to hide under a rock and caused him to treat his coworkers differently. He still feels wary, he said, about inviting a female colleague into his office without another person present. The episode also resulted in his feelings of depression and anxiety, for which he was prescribed a medication. He feared for his job and worried that he might not be able to provide for his family. He lost weight and sleep. Ultimately, he hated going to work, and he started looking for another job. And I can almost imagine. So there you go. I've talked long enough. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a link to a journalistic article about this case from a Colorado media outlet. I'm going to pin that in the top comment. And I'm going to put a PDF to this opinion, this disbarment opinion, which lays out a narrative of all the events as they took place. And I'm going to pin a link to this PDF in the description of the video. And I'm going to ask that if you got something out of this, to please consider liking and subscribing to this channel so that other people who might need to hear about things like this can get to hear it. And let me just say in closing that this is a cautionary tale, and I'm just going to say, be careful out there, gentlemen.